Okay, so big news this week. Red Wedding 3.0. Well, not really, but HBO pulled not something shocking, but something that was inevitable. And I should be going to bed right now, but at the same time, I really wanted to talk about this because this is a big issue. Wanted to get it while it's on. Also, I have some things I want to say about it. So, if you don't know, HBO just made a big announcement today, and they've been adapting Game of Thrones forever and slowly but surely catching up on the books. And they are literally at the point where they want to do it in like 7 seasons, have each book be a 10 episode season, which is a debate in itself. But they recently announced that because of this, they're going to catch up on the books definitely by next season. And even if George R. R. Martin can get Winds of Winter out on time, which he may not, but hopefully he will, but without a doubt, they are going to wind up. He's not going to finish the final book in time, and they will, without a doubt, wind up having to spoil stuff. Which means that we're going to be getting the show before the books, because George R. R. Martin, he's given the show like his notes on what's supposed to happen in the books, which for two reasons. One, so they can plan ahead and they aren't in the dark, which is really smart. And also in case like he passes away, which hopefully will not happen, but if it does, they know where to go, they know what the plan was, and they can do it, which hopefully that won't happen because the books are wonderful and I really want to see his work done all the way through. I mean, I always view Game of Thrones, which before I get into it, I need to talk a bit about Game of Thrones first so you can understand how I feel. It's good. I really like it, but I view it secondary to the books. The books are wonderful, well-written, great, immersive. There's detail to the world and the characters and inside their heads that you simply cannot get in the show. So, this leads to a problem because, like, I'm always one of those people who reads the books and then watches it because it's an interpretation of someone else's work. Oftentimes it's watered down, and I like to get the original depth, the original presentation. And sometimes, a lot of cases, something's handled much better in the books. And Game of Thrones is no exception. I mean, there are times when like certain plot points are introduced or presented in a certain way that are much more better and convenient than in the books. Like Jojen Reed's introduced way better in the books. And I can't think of anything else right now. I'm a little tired, so it's hard to think. But at the end of the day, the point is that stuff is usually introduced better in the books. But now I don't even have that. The show's essentially kind of depriving us of that option, because what the creators are doing is essentially they're kind of screwing over the book fans in a sense. Because the fans of the book who either just read the books on their own or just watched the show, whoever didn't watch the show or watched it secondary now don't have a choice, because rather than wait for the books now, they essentially have to watch the show if they want to find out what happens next, or wait for George R. R. Martin to come out next book. But that's made impossible because through the internet, like, big plot points are going to drop like bombs. So many people watch this show. So if you read the books, you're going to have to basically boycott yourself for all time until the books come out, which is ridiculous. So essentially you're forced to watch the adapted version first. And then, like, go back and see, which there's a couple issues I have with that, which I'll get into. I mean, the first off, number one, a couple issues. I mean, I understand why they did it. They need to keep the show moving. They can't, like, drag it out forever. But at the same time, it's like, they could give him more time. Like, because, like, the next season's going to combine Feast for Crows and Stormus and Dance with Dragons. And honestly, there's enough material in that book that you could honestly do it in 2 seasons. And plus, Winds of Winter and the Spring book, I can't remember the title of it, just as Sword Spring it. there's probably going to be enough material in there that you could split it into multiple seasons if you wanted to and could. But at the same time, they aren't doing that because HBO wants to do it in 7 seasons, which on one end, which again, pacing wise, that doesn't really work because each episode, it doesn't really work because, like, that means you have to cut a lot of stuff out because each season's only 10 episodes, which results in a lot of stuff cut out. Which leads me to my next issue with them doing this, is that by watching the show, by being forced to watch the show before reading the books, we're essentially getting, like, an altered version of the books. And now I know HBO said that it's going to be different, like, characters are going to die, like, major plot points are going to be the same, but there's little details and plot points that are going to be the same, but here's the point. That's just an excuse to justify this. I mean, at the end of the day, like, in my opinion, I feel like I should have the option to read the books first without feeling forced like I have to watch the show first. And oftentimes, like, and the version we're getting in the show is going to be significant. It's going to be like, it's not going to be the same beats. It's literally like they took Martin's notes, broke it down into the bare minimums, and are making the show. And which means that there's going to be moments in the show that are not going to be good or make sense, and a lot of it, there's a lot of stuff that would have been handled better in the book. Like, there are scenes that would have probably played out better in the book. There are character motivations, actions, or I'm probably going to be like, I'm guessing this would be explained better in the book. I feel like I'm just going to be watching the show, and there's going to be a lot of things that aren't going to add up or feel very contrived. And it'll reach that point where it's like, I guess this was explained better in the book. Or, like, character transitions, and there's just this flow to it. I mean, even Martin's decision to, like, split the post-Storm of Swords content into 2 books happening simultaneously, so that way it flows better. Like, Feast for Crows is very King's Landing centric, and Dance of Dragons, even when it passes Feast for Crows, is still very centered around what's across the Narrow Sea. So, whereas the show, like, they're constantly jumping between plot lines, so oftentimes it feels very choppy and disconnected at times. And so I'm going to be getting a second rate of it. So I really don't have an easy answer for what to do. I mean, I'm just not happy about this in general. I would much rather have the option to read the books, especially since I love the books. I enjoyed the show, but I love the books. And the fact that I might not get the option to experience the ending of the story the way Martin intended it, is a bit of a bummer, especially since I'm almost caught up on Game of Thrones, both book-wise and show-wise. I'm almost done with Dance of Dragons. I'm almost caught up on the show, and it's a bummer that I might have to boycott the show if I want to, and just tread carefully around the internet to avoid anything. I mean, hopefully George R. R. Martin can get Winds of Winter out in time, so at least we'll have that, but even so, like, we're still not, the ending is going to be told through the show first, not Martin. And I mean, I could go, they seem pretty nice about it, and I'm sure Martin was cool about it, but I am a little bothered that they went into the show, like, they started the show knowing that this was going to inevitably happen, and I wish, like, they would have been smarter about how they paced it to give more time, like, or if they had waited a little longer, like, before doing this. Like, Harry Potter never had this problem, like, they were always, like, a couple books behind. So, I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm definitely going to watch Season 5, but it will be will feel a bit intrusive and awkward just watching stuff that they're probably going to work in some stuff from Winds of Winter in there, and maybe some stuff from the spring books set up into Season 5, and it will just feel awkward. But I think, unfortunately, what I'm going to do, just because the show doesn't do as good a job telling the story as the books, and in order to experience the story in the way it was intended, and out of respect for George R. R. Martin, who I really appreciate, he clearly, really talented writer, really respects his fans, respects the creators. Out of respect for him and his hard work and masterful storytelling, I'm going to experience the books the way he wanted, the way I feel like they should be experienced, which is reading the story he wrote, not the adaptation. So when season 5 ends, if Winds of Winter doesn't come out, I will politely and quietly not watch season 6. Not because I don't love Game of Thrones, but because I do. I love Game of Thrones, and I want to read it the way it was meant to be read, not someone else's interpretation. I want the loved, incredibly detailed written work of George R.R. Martin. And then I'll see what HBO does with it. And to George R. R. Martin, I wish him the best of luck writing the remaining books. Keep up the good work. Take all the time you need. Please put your heart, your soul, your passion, make them wonderful. I appreciate the fact that you aren't rushing and you're taking your time with these books. And HBO, I just hope you'll give a fair spoiler warning when you're going to go into uncharted territory. And also that you don't dictate the release of the book so you can get the show first, because part of me feels like they're just doing this to get views. Like, there's sort of like this race to get, like, they want to get their version out first, but that's probably me. But I'm probably going to wind up doing that. I hate the fact that I have to do that. And the fact that I have to essentially blind myself. Like, I just caught up and now I have to, like, boycott, not watch the show and avoid the internet. And I just heard someone say I'm fucking someone said something really mean to me. They were like, not watching Game of Thrones is like not watching Lord of the Rings. So I'm like, it's my choice. Well, it's almost insulting, like saying, if you don't watch the show, you're nothing. And to me, that's kind of insulting. It's an adaptation and of someone else's work. And in all honesty, I would much rather see it the way George R. R. Martin intended it. If it shouldn't honestly matter which way I watch the show. In fact, again, all this is my opinion, but the fact that someone is literally telling me that I am wrong if I don't watch Game of Thrones is insulting. And again, I'm not saying that that what HBO is doing is right or wrong. I mean, this is the best. I mean, I understand they need to keep a show going, and I understand Martin needs to take his time on his book. And however what you choose to do about it is beyond you. But I'm not going to insult anyone who chooses to watch the show over reading the books, or someone who chooses to just read the books and not watch the show. But I am saying what my opinion is, and if you guys have something you want to say, please leave it in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear you. And as always, like, dislike, comment, subscribe, and George R. R. Martin, I wish you the best of luck on your books, and HBO, again, just please don't screw with the fan base anymore. At least I feel like you were. Anyway, until next time, this is JStar260, and take care.